Well, hello and welcome to PM Express. And obviously, we're looking at the Ghana-US military pact. If you've been monitoring your radio or your television, just few hours or few minutes ago, the president of the nation spoke. He spoke from his heart. He spoke very passionately, and he expressed absolute disgust and absolute anger towards the hypocrisy and some of the recklessness in political frontliners who are literally bad-mouthing the Americans and the American deal between Ghana and America. And I think, you know, sometimes as a true patriot, as a true Ghanaian, sometimes it becomes very difficult when there's an issue of national concern and it becomes a football for the NPP and the NDC. If you stand in the middle, you really want to find out which side should I stand. Should I go for it or should I be against it? What should I support for it to be in favor of Ghana? Particularly if you have no knowledge about it and somebody has to read and come and give you the fact, the laws and the technicalities about it, you can't be lost. And this is one of such cases where I think the average Ghanaian is lost. Should we accept this pact or should we reject this pact? According to the government, this is a deal that's been done many times before. Indeed, it's a status quo that's normal. According to the minority, no, this is unheard of and should be brushed off. What do we do? And that's what we are discussing today. When I come back, I have two fine gentlemen who will, and hopefully in the next hour, find out where to stand as to whether we reject it or we accept it. Don't go away. Well, thank you very much for staying with me. In the studio is Mahama Ayariga, Chairman, Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament, and also Honorable Member of Parliament for Boko Central. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good. And then I have in studio Adam Bonaa, who is a security analyst, our own PM Express security analyst, as I have named him. But let me start with you, Mr. Ayariga, with regards to reacting to the president's statement, if you had the opportunity to listen.
I listened, and those the president is a very important one. I want to have so much respect.
Let me give you a few minutes to dry your throat, because it's a very important discussion and I need your throat.
Yeah, I mean, ordinarily, the president doesn't come out that way when he is discussing simple, ordinary matters. He sounded very serious, but at the same time, I thought this would have been an opportunity for him to take his time and explain the issues, but he came across as somebody on the offensive, attacking people who have disagreements with him. And I thought that as a president, he shouldn't have proceeded along those lines, to a point where I thought he was descending into the issues of the week that many of us had already said wasn't the best. But I thought at the level of the president, he could have skipped that. I mean, the arrest of Koku and the statements that Koku made and etc. And he tries to present those who have disagreement with this agreement that he has gone to commit himself to with the Americans as people who are not patriots, people who are dishonest, people who are pretentious and all that. What he failed to do, in my opinion, is to try to understand the context and really what the issues are. The issues are very simple if he would pay attention. One is nobody says that Ghana and the United States have never had any military cooperation arrangement. And nobody is saying that Ghana and the United States should never have any form of military cooperation. Indeed, our obligations under the United Nations are that we should cooperate with other members of the United Nations to promote international peace and cooperation. So we have an obligation to work with the United Nations if it is to promote international peace and cooperation. And we support them, they support us, and the records are there to show. There's a clear distinction between that and the agreement that he has gone to commit himself to, which is basically he is taking the cooperation to a higher level and committing us to a number of things. He's committing us to the establishment of a military base in Ghana. And I heard him saying that, you know, no military base will be established in Ghana. But just go and try to understand what a military base is. A military base basically is an installation. A military installation owned by Americans anywhere in the world, where whatever happens in that installation is controlled and directed by the Department of Defense in the United States. Once you have that, that is a military base.
Is it new to Ghana?
It is new to Ghana. It is new to Ghana because
there's never been an occasion where the U.S. has used Ghana as a base to, you know, fight Boko Haram, or
the U.S. has used Ghana as a platform to carry out activities in other locations, but not under a legal regime such as this one. So, for instance, if last year the U.S. Army came to Ghana so that they could move troops into Niger to carry out an operation, whilst they were in Ghana, if any one of the soldiers committed an offense, he was subject to the jurisdiction of the courts of Ghana. He will be arrested, he will be tried by the courts of Ghana, and he will be punished.
Is that the international convention?
That is the law. That is the law of Ghana. I say that
because in the president's statement, he said that even if Ghanaian soldiers were on UN missions, they travel with their ID cards, and if anything happens, they're sent back home to be punished.
Yeah. No, but that's
a UN convention.
That is UN. They are going there as UN officers. I mean, they are serving the United Nations.
So it's not an international diplomacy convention?
No, they are going there in their capacity as people wearing the blue beret. And when you're wearing the blue beret, the UN rules will apply to you. But in this case, these are Americans coming to Ghana. And once they come to Ghana, they are not diplomats. American diplomat, the ambassador of America, or the chargé d'affaires, or the whoever, when they come as diplomats.
So
under the Vienna Convention,
these guys are coming as individuals?
They are supposed to come as individual soldiers. That is the rule. So if you take, for instance...
Wouldn't that be a bit strange that a bunch of American soldiers come here on their own? They will come with the cover of their government and with the acceptance of our government.
Yes.
Would that not give them that automatic diplomacy?
No. The law on diplomatic immunity is for diplomats. That's why it is called diplomatic immunity. And it was carved out, you know, all this while under international law to protect diplomats in host countries.
Let me bring Adam in here, but when I come back to you, we'll go back to the fact that Ghana has already signed this agreement where you can't try Americans on our soil. You need to send them back.
No,
that convention is already there.
No, that's not true. Ghana and America are all part of the United Nations system.
The
non-surrender relates only to the International Criminal Court. It relates only to the International Criminal Court. It doesn't mean any soldier, soldier who arrives here, any soldier who arrives in Ghana, any American soldier who arrives in Ghana,
through his government.
If an American soldier arrives in Ghana
from
all the countries that have signed to that treaty, that have ratified it, if you were sent there on an official duty and you committed murder.
Yeah, that's what I was official.
If you official duty and you committed murder, that country would have to send you back to America to be tried by their own, and we have signed to it.
Yes,
I'm sure you know.
But that is pursuant.
No, I'm sure you know.
That is pursuant to the exceptions under the International Criminal Court arrangement.
No. I would be grateful if you quote it.
You should quote. You are saying we have signed, so you should produce it.
No, because this treaty is only related to America. And the time when some of us actually spoke against it, that, why should we sign to a treaty that says that if American soldiers, sent here for official duties and they commit crimes, they should be taken back to America to be punished. And so this is not any ICC of a sort. It has nothing to do with ICC. It has absolutely nothing to do with ICC. We should get it right. No. The non-surrender has nothing to do with ICC. What it even means is that the ICC, that non-surrender treaty, is actually above ICC. That is what it means. It means that if let's say Britain has signed to it, or let's say The Hague, or some of these countries where they host these courts, international courts, even if they find themselves there and that country has signed to that treaty, you cannot try them there. You have to send them to America. And so it has nothing to do with the non-surrender has nothing to do with the ICC. Maybe we need to get that fact right.
Listen carefully. The bilateral immunity agreements, these are agreements that America promoted with countries as an exception to the Article 98 of the ICC statute, the Rome Statute. So they went around all the countries trying to get them to sign on to this treaty because they didn't want their officers, their soldiers, to be surrendered to the ICC for trial. That was the understanding of all countries that entered into this bilateral. Those who entered into these bilateral immunity agreements were to make sure that when there was a request to surrender a soldier so that he will be tried by the International Criminal Court, you will not do so. You will rather send the soldier back to the United States of America. That is my limited understanding of the objectives of the bilateral immunity agreements that we all entered into with the United States.
Exactly.
But this particular agreement that has been brought, it says that not only the soldiers, but even contractors and their families who come along with them, the soldiers and their families who come along with them, when they come and they commit an offense, we cannot try them here. We'll have to surrender them and send them back to America. That is the issue many of us have. Look, the Kenyans have entered into a similar cooperation agreement with the United States of America. Look at it. This is the Kenyan agreement. And if you read the Kenyan agreement, they have been clear with the Americans that, yes, we are going to enter into an agreement, but our laws you must respect. Our institutions you must respect. If you commit an offense here, the first option is that we're going to try you under our laws. That is the issue that people have. They're saying that
Kenya would imprison the American prisoner?
Oh, it is here. Read it. It's here. It says, the host nation may provide assistance to the visiting forces from time to time as it may deem fit and expedient. Visiting forces shall observe rules, orders, and safety measures applied in the institution or establishment where activities take place, and shall abstain from infringing the laws of the host nation and from any political activities or any other activities that may be inconsistent with the spirit of this agreement. It further says that the relevant authorities of the host nation shall have jurisdiction over any member of the visiting forces, the civilian component, or dependents for any criminal offense committed in contravention of any law of the host nation, customary international law, treaty, or any agreement to which the host nation's government is a party, save for instances where under this agreement such jurisdiction is expressly conferred on the service authorities of the sending nation. That is the crux of the matter. The fact that these same soldiers, when they go to Kenya...
If I get it clearly, this is to the civilians that come and not the...
Both
not
the soldiers and the civilians. Listen carefully. It says that the relevant authorities of the host nation shall have jurisdiction over any member of the visiting forces,
Okay.
the civilian component,
Okay.
or dependents for any criminal offense committed. So that is our problem. Our problem is that why do you give them such blanket immunity? They, the civilian component, their dependents, all of them, when they come, they can set up their base and they can carry arms in the streets of Accra. And if they do anything to anybody, our courts have no jurisdiction. That is the issue. Nobody is against American soldiers coming here and working and cooperating with our soldiers.
Let me come in here. When we the whole story has been simplified like that. American soldiers wake up in the morning, go to Karachi market, and start using the market women as a target practice. Are we not exaggerating? Okay, I'm coming there.
Yes, I think I need to. It is important to clarify some of the things. A military base, a military base, just like you said, the U.S. especially have 3 types of military arrangements. What we have is the cooperative security location or the cooperative, arrangement. And so, for the purposes of this program and our viewers, I would want to read what a military base is. It says a main operating base, that is MOB, is an overseas permanently manned, well-protected base used to support permanently deployed forces. These are the key words. Permanently deployed forces with robust sea or air access. Then you come to the second one. It says forward operating site, which doesn't fit our situation. It says this is a scalable, warm facility that can support sustained operations, but with only a small permanent presence of support or contractor personnel. FOS will host occasional rotational forces and many contain pre-positioned equipment. Then you come to what we have, which is the cooperative one. It says the cooperative security location is a host nation facility with little or no permanent U.S. personnel presence. I want to capture that. The cooperative security location is a host nation facility with little or no permanent U.S. personnel presence, which may contain pre-positioned equipment or logistical arrangement and serve for both security cooperation activities and contingency access.
Okay.
And so when we say base, the base, Burma camp is a base. When I say Burma camp is a base.
So basically it's a small base.
Yes, in our term, if you come to our jurisdiction, you want to say, as compared to Togo, Burma camp is like a whole community. And so Burma camp is a base, because then you have personnel with their wives and they are, that is where they are.
Well, the president is insisting that there's not going to be a base. The Americans have not requested a base.
And so the point has to be made clear. Then I think coming forward to what do you call it? I am looking at probably what the president said. I wouldn't want to go into. I would want to say, well, I wasn't expecting probably anything different, because since time immemorial, maybe 500 years ago, 250 years of U.S. democracy, they haven't even had any leader who would move away from his generals. When I say his generals, when there is heat and his generals have advised him that this is how we go, then he says, no, we don't want, I'm not going to go that way. And I would want to say that, well, what were we expecting the president to say? I'm sure if the president was only coming to say we have to relook at this document, with international convention, they would have just come up with a fiat or a release to say we have to send this thing back to have it relooked at. And so I want us to look at it and say probably we need to start looking at the positives. What are there some positives in this agreement? But it looks like we are not highlighting the positives in this agreement. And so somehow, once we are not highlighting the positives, and this thing has gone to Parliament and they've ratified it and the President has spoken, we need to start probably looking at the positives and asking ourselves, where do we go from here? Because I'm looking at it, and I have heard about 20 million being thrown around. But when you have a copy of the agreement, if you've seen it, then you will realize that, are you aware that the UN is cutting down on peacekeeping operations in this part of the world? They are scaling it down because of funding. And so, since independence, Ghana has never gone to war. The only way our military gets to exercise and get to be engaged and sharpen their skills and preparedness is through peacekeeping and what have you. And so if the UN is going to cut down on some of these peacekeeping operations, what happens to our 17,000 military officers? Are we going to have them around and probably, because first of all, do we even have the requisite accoutrement to train them?
And I'll come back to you. And, you know, in all fairness, have we, blown the disagreement out of proportion, considering the relationship we have with America, considering the similarities in some of the deals we've had? If some details have been missed, is it proportionate to our sovereignty is sold and demonstrations? And I mean, did we blow that side a little bit over the top?
No, the issues are as serious as people are presenting them, and his attempt to create the impression that there is no military base being established is not true. Listen, a military base
is anywhere a soldier stays.
Is not, I mean, it is the level of control that the Americans have over the space here. And what you need to do is read Article 5 of the agreement. You say you don't have the agreement. The agreement is everywhere. It was brought to us in Parliament.
I have it.
Look, it says Ghana hereby provides listen, Ghana hereby provides unimpeded access to and use of agreed facilities, unimpeded access to and use of facilities and areas to United States forces. And then the next part, United States forces are hereby authorized to exercise all rights and authorities that are necessary for the use, operation, defense, or control of agreed facilities and areas, including taking appropriate measures to protect United States forces. United States forces intend to coordinate such measures with the appropriate authorities of Ghana. So it means that they are going to control the base, and if you attempt to enter the base, they have authority to fire at you to stop you from entering the base. They have every authority to take every step to protect the base, including the use of force. And furthermore, there are provisions that say that.
But is that not the international convention?
No. Which provide me an international convention. No, provide me an international convention that says that. No, provide me an international convention. If it were an international convention, then they don't need an agreement. No, they don't need a specific agreement with Ghana. If there's an international convention that says that we can just move our troops into Togo and then establish a base, and if anybody is entering there, we can fire back at that person. That is the concern. Read the language.
You see, what you read.
Yes.
What you read. Yes. I didn't see anything base in there. My emphasis is.
So if they don't use the word a base.
No. What you read.
So they haven't used the word a base. So
no. You see. What you read?
I printed Wikipedia. Listen, I printed Wikipedia.
Let me ask you.
I printed Wikipedia. Wikipedia even says that an installation is defined as a military base. Simple. An installation, any installation. An installation is defined as a military base, camp, post, station, yard, center, blah 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 blah. So now this is the control. This is the control word. That is controlled by or primarily supports Department of Defense activities. It is a question of control. So it means that once they have that space, the CDS of Ghana doesn't control what happens in that space.
No, but
that space, what happens there, will be controlled by the Department of Defense. That's what distinguishes it as a base.
Is there anywhere in the world where, let's say, Indian troops, i.e. in China, and then India base, China controls that base? I don't know.
In Kenya, that is the law. No, in Kenya, this is the agreement. In Kenya,
No, it says they should obey the Kenyan rules, but it doesn't mean that
No,
Kenyans
so read where they say.
That is the point.
No, read where they say. No,
yes.
what my point is that, you see, Nana,
yes.
if we are not very careful, I'm trying to, let's simplify this. I visit you, you've given me your 2-bedroom house, you've given it your 2-bedroom house to stay in. You've given me the keys. And you have agreed with me that for 2 weeks or maybe until such a time that you decide to take back the key, I'm supposed to have my stuff there. Why would you stop me from having access to the place?
Well, I think
because my point is that, you see, if we are not very careful, we begin to throw around, words, we begin to talk about things that probably, because you read from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia will give you a general overview of, what do you call it?
I think the word base has been politicized.
Yeah, that's what I'm
but whether we
saying.
like it or not,
because
there'll be military presence.
no,
and that place will be controlled by the Americans. So it's just that we have politicized the base.
Exactly, it needs to be qualified properly.
As to whether it's going to be big
if we
or
are not
small.
very careful, I would have wished that the discussions from henceforth would be to look at the positives.
But what we have done over the years. Let me move the argument a bit.
Yes.
One of the things the president was hurt or disappointed about was that some similar agreements like this have been signed in the quiet and nobody knew about it. He thought that because I have faith in the people, let me bring this out in the open. I mean, do you give him credit for that? That at least he tried to bring it to Parliament?
No. Do you know what?
You'd have rather he'd have signed it secretly?
No, he hanged himself. Do you know why he hanged himself? Because when John Mahama went and signed an agreement to bring 2 ex-detainees of Guantanamo Bay to Ghana, he and his group led a crusade against the action.
Okay, but
went to the Supreme Court.
There's a similar deal that's been signed by Hannah Tete, which nobody knew.
No, I have a copy.
Yeah, but we didn't know until 2 weeks ago.
Let me finish. I'm saying that because of what they did in relation to the Guantanamo Bay case, he now has a moral obligation anytime he goes to enter into an international agreement to come and have it signed. Secondly, the Supreme Court reaffirmed that and said, look, any agreement that is not ratified is not binding on Ghana. So the country that is entering into that agreement, if you think that you have had a discussion with the president of Ghana and therefore you have an agreement, you don't have anything. So it is not because he's a very good person. That is why he's bringing it. He's bringing it because he's obliged to bring it by law, by the Supreme Court decision.
So going
now, let's get back to Hannah Tete and Co's agreement.
Yeah,
I'm not going to defend it and say that when they entered into the agreement and they didn't bring it to Ghana, it was right, to Parliament for ratification. It was right. It was wrong because that's what the Supreme Court says, that you must bring it to Parliament for ratification. So what was done was wrong. That I'm ready to concede. But the other question I ask myself is, what President Akufo-Addo has foisted on us is far, far, far different from what Hannah Tete signed. And what she signed is an acquisition and cross-servicing agreement. I'll give it to you. Go home and study. Tomorrow when you're doing the program, you will see what it simply says that wherever Ghanaian soldiers find themselves and they need to carry out an activity, and the U.S. has facilities there, be they aircraft, vehicle, a base, a camp, the Ghanaian soldiers can rely on those facilities and use it for their activity, but they will be billed by the U.S. government for that activity and the use of the facility. The same way, reciprocally, wherever the U.S. soldiers find themselves and Ghanaians have facilities, they can also use the facilities to do what they have to do, and the government, the Ghana Armed Forces, will also bill them for the use of the facility. That's why it is acquisition and cross-servicing agreement. That is all. It doesn't say anything beyond that. This is a copy of it. If you have time, you can read it clause by clause to the Ghanaian public, let them hear. And if there is anything there similar to these provisions that say that the soldiers, their wives, dependents, contractors, they should all just come to Ghana and enjoy the same level of diplomatic immunity that the ambassador of America to Ghana enjoys. There's nothing like that there. So the president is misleading the country when he creates the impression that the NDC signed the same agreement. All that he has done is to honestly put that out in public.
They have tax waivers here.
Pardon?
They have tax waivers here.
Listen, let me read the provisions on tax waivers so you see you see what it says. I have I marked it. Let's read it. You see, listen to what Hanatete signed. Insofar as national laws and regulations permit. So that means that everything about tax waiver is subject to the laws of Ghana. So insofar as national laws and regulations permit, the party shall ensure that any readily identifiable duties, taxes, and similar charges are not imposed on activities conducted under this agreement. So all that is saying is that if there's any tax waiver already existing under the laws of Ghana, if you are carrying out this activity and they're using your facilities, make sure that they also benefit from the existing tax holidays. So there's no new tax waiver provision in this agreement. It is subject to existing national laws. That is the difference.
I'm lost.
Yes, this year.
Are you saying if they bring their jeeps to come and train, you tax them?
You tax them because this is not a norm.
No, but this is what the law says. It says that it is here. But we shouldn't be talking outside the agreement. This is the agreement.
We don't tax military vehicles, do we?
If they are brought in by the government of Ghana, we don't tax. If they are brought in by the American embassy as their vehicles, we may not tax them. But then the American embassy have to now justify why they will be bringing in military vehicles. So they cannot, because
but this is the American embassy. This is the military.
This is the military.
And if you are asking them to come and establish base, settle, yard, whatever it is, they're not going to come empty-handed.
No, we are not asking them to come and establish a base.
Yes, but
we are saying that when they come here.
No, the point I'm trying to raise is that
when they come, listen carefully. When they come here,
yes,
and they use our facilities. Let's say they use a vehicle that the armed forces of Ghana
you're not letting me talk.
When they use let me explain. When they use a vehicle, a vehicle that the armed forces of Ghana has imported, because when the Ghana armed forces are importing vehicles, we don't let them pay duty for, let's say, an ammo tank. The American soldiers come and use the ammo tank, it gets spoiled, and you write it off. Now you're going to bill them for the ammo tank. Then you go and bill them the cost of the ammo tank plus duty for the armor tank when you didn't pay duty for the armor tank. Are you getting the argument? So this is why this provision says that so far as your laws permit you to exempt duty, you should also make sure that they benefit from that duty exemption. So you don't bring in armored vehicles when you don't pay duty, and when they come and use you, you charge them and add duty. That won't be fair. That is the intention of this provision. So we never had provisions that exempted them from paying duty when they bring in vehicles.
Okay, Adam, let me hear you.
I'm arguing based on the law. You read it.
Well,
if you say something, read the specific provision to me.
Well, for me, I think I would want to digress from the negatives and probably concentrate on the positives. Having a copy of the 2018 agreement. If you look at it, it says there will be several other things. There are, portions that talks about peacekeeping. There are portions that even talks about, joint, something for the police, something that talks about even HIV, and all sorts of things. And so I would have wished that we rather go into how this is going to be done instead of probably restricting ourselves to, as we always do, the negatives and leaving the positives and not talking about the positives. I'm sure you have the one that came to Parliament. You have it.
This is what I'm reading to you. That's what I'm reading to you.
If you have it, I'm surprised you have it and you didn't talk about
what.
Some of the things that are,
what positives are there? No, that when they finish the buildings, they can give them back to Ghana free of charge.
No, listen.
Is that the main thing?
It talks about peacekeeping. You see, or you think peacekeeping is not necessary?
My brother.
It's a question.
My brother, peacekeeping didn't start yesterday and it won't start today. We are saying that generally the cooperation arrangement with the Americans, we don't have an issue with having cooperation arrangement with Americans. But we're saying that the terms of this cooperation arrangement surrenders our sovereignty. What is our sovereignty?
How does
it surrenders our sovereignty in the sense that
how does it surrender it?
It oust the jurisdiction of our courts for people who come here and commit offenses, and our courts cannot try them. I mean, they can kill a Ghanaian. They can rape our daughters, our sisters, our mothers.
That I find a bit too political.
It takes away. It takes away.
Oh, you think it doesn't happen? Let me read to you. Let me read to you what happened in Colombia. In Colombia, when Colombian men rape Colombian women, it is news. When U.S. soldiers and private defense contractors, not even the soldiers, of private defense contractors.
So you are now comparing Colombia?
Are the rapists? Not so much. Last week, fair notice that not one major media organization in the United States has covered the charge reported in Colombia and online in English by the invaluable Madeleine-based Colombia report that U.S. military soldiers and contractors had sexually abused at least 54 children in Colombia between 2003 and 2007. And in all cases, the rapists were never punished, either in Colombia or stateside, due to American military personnel being immune from prosecution under diplomatic immunity agreements. It's not just in Colombia. In Japan.
So
it happened.
Let me
Are you getting this? So when we say that these offenses will be committed, they will be committed. They are human beings. They will commit offenses.
That's very certain. But I'll take a quick break and come back. Don't move.
People.
Well, this is one of those shows that you need extra time to really discuss and try and see if you can get to the bottom of it. But we'll do our best. And one of the statements made today by the president is that some of these reckless self-seekers, and they've taken this argument, this bill agreement, and ripped it to shreds, bit by bit by bit, which, according to the president, we have lived with for decades in one aspect or the other. There's nothing majorly new other than slight technicalities. However, going through it, there are certain things that the minority would have changed. The other things which the majority will just keep as it is. Adam, I think you something before. Yes. I left you.
Yes.
With regards to positives.
On the lighter side, I want to say, don't our parliamentarians, when they abuse us and we ask the police to get them, they say, I'm heading to Parliament, so you need to go and inform the right honorable Speaker of Parliament before you can arrest me. I don't know, Nana, haven't we lived with that for years? That's on the lighter note. Yeah, so I am looking at a situation where there are key things within the 2000 and the one that was recently that went to Parliament. There are some key things that talk about, peacekeeping. It talks about, military exercises. It talks about, health. It talks about several things. And I would have wanted us to interrogate those areas and say, okay, this is what they are saying we are going to get within this time frame. What will be the measuring scale? How sure are we that we are going to get it? But if we are not careful, we are going to busy ourselves with talking about the negatives, forgetting about the positives. Because at the moment, the president has spoken. I doubt if what else can we do as a nation? Whether those who say no. The president has spoken. And so we need to unite and move on and make sure that we begin to interrogate the positives within this thing. But unfortunately, it looks like the argument is still, on the negatives in the thing. Yes, there could be. We won't have an agreement where you say everything in the agreement, it then need to cease to be an agreement. You can't have an agreement where you want to have it, 100%, this is the way I want it. It will not be it will be an imposition. Unless, of course, that is where probably those who are saying, who are, highlighting too many of the negatives are talking about. So
what would the majority want changed here?
Okay, let me show you.
Yeah.
Ghana shall accord to military personnel and civilian personnel the privileges, exemptions, and immunities equivalent to those accorded to the administrative and technical staff of diplomatic missions under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Military personnel may possess and carry arms in Ghana while on duty, if authorized to do so by their orders. Such authorization being made in consultation with the appropriate authorities of Ghana. Military personnel may wear their uniforms while performing official duties.
So it's
Listen, listen to me. You see, so first and foremost, ordinary soldiers who are just coming to participate in military exercises with your own soldiers, or who may just be transiting here and then going somewhere else to carry out a military operation, you have elevated them to the level of the ambassador of America to Ghana. That's all that you have done. And we're saying that, how can you do that? Look, even within the military base, even within the joint operation.
See, why are you saying the ambassador? Why don't you say diplomatic staff?
Yes, diplomatic staff, ambassador.
Yes, could be the
that's why.
Let me read something for you.
That is why. That is why it's called diplomatic.
Nana.
So somebody who's a diplomat has been trained, disciplined as a diplomat. He knows how to conduct himself as a diplomat. Now you go and take a soldier trained as a soldier, and then you bring him to Ghana and you give him diplomatic status. Do you know how he's going to manage that?
Okay, Adam,
those are the issues.
For instance, he talked about the weapons. If you look at this, was I think the agreement entered into 2015. It was signed by, I think, Honorable Segbefia. He used to be Deputy Minister of Defense. If you look at C, it talks about carrying of weapons by personnel of the mentioned force to be restricted to their duty post and training areas only. I don't know how different that is to this. How different is this? Because if you read this, it is the language. It's just the language that has changed. Because it is here. It has. So if you look at it critically, most of the things that probably are in the current one are things that were in previous ones and found its way here. And so for me, I still maintain that from now on, can't we busy ourselves with the positives and beginning to search, benchmarking this whole thing and saying, okay, there's supposed to be joint military exercises. What is that supposed to do to our personnel? There's supposed to be, what do you call it, training of our, working in collaboration with our police service and training them. What are we expecting at the end of the day?
What's your challenge with wearing uniform and sidearms? I'm asking. I mean, like, what would be your challenge if an American soldier was wearing his uniform and had his sidearm? Maybe he's from Bemakam going to Chiasi, and he didn't wear a jeans, but he wore his uniform going. For you, what would be your challenge?
I don't think he would even allow. He would be allowed. I mean, no.
Under this arrangement, you'll be allowed.
No. You see, you should know. You should know, unless well, if you don't know, it is okay. But the truth is that anybody who knows how the military behaves, even our own Ghana military, it is something, it's a convention, it's a norm that is practiced internationally. A military officer cannot just get up, like, I am a military officer, without any permits. I dress up, jack up my sidearm, and I zoom into town. It happens here. It is because probably the rules have been. I mean, you lived in London. How often did you see military officers parading in the street of there? They will be arrested. And so mine is that we are not supposed to see them without permits in town. And so I'm expecting that it will even be, I'm sure, whatever they are training, if you are not in uniform, they can go into the discotheques and have fun. But they are training, it's part of the training given to most military officers. You don't wear, because then, especially when you're an American soldier, you risk going into town alone in your uniform. Because then people would then know you are a military officer, and so probably people could do things to you. And so mine is that let's look at this from that angle and not make it look like this agreement means that when they come in, an individual, because even at the airport base, I mean, do we have people staying at the airport? The airport, do we have people staying there?
No.
We don't have people staying at the airport. And so when you hear this is a place that these are hanging. I haven't seen a 2-bedroom flat at the airport. The whole lot. I haven't seen a 2-bedroom flat within where the runways are.
Okay, let me
and
come
so
back.
why is that we need to decouple.
Would you have an issue if you're driving around cantonment and there were 2 American soldiers dressed in their uniform with their sidearms? I don't know what you're doing anyway.
You see,
I would have an issue. As for that, I would have an issue.
Listen, you see,
as for that, I would have an issue.
You see, you are not paying attention to the crux of our issue. We're not saying that American soldiers haven't worn uniform in Ghana before.
Okay.
We're also not saying that American soldiers haven't borne weapons in Ghana before.
Okay.
Or carried out military exercises before. Or that American military aircraft haven't landed and taken off in Ghana before. They have been doing that
for many years.
The difference here is that now we are conferring diplomatic immunity on them and saying that they can come, they can establish a base, they can defend the base, and we have no access to the base. The base will be controlled from America, and whatever they do, we cannot touch them, and the only thing we can do is to put them on an aircraft and then fly them back to the US. They can maim, they can kill, they can rape, they can do anything, and our laws are inapplicable. And I'm saying that our brothers in Kenya, where they even have a more serious security problem, and they need the support of the Americans. Here, what security problem do we have? That we need Americans to come and set up a base here. But Kenya, where they need them, even they, in entering into the agreement, still respected their country, their constitution, their laws. And so when you come here, so long as you are here, you are subject to the laws of Kenya. And unless our Attorney General decides that we will grant you an exemption in a particular field, you will be subject to the laws of Ghana. That is the essence of the sovereignty of a country. That is the issue.
No, but if you have
that is the fundamental issue. The essence, the sovereignty.
Non-surrender treaty. Listen, if you have signed to a document, if you are
I've tried to explain the non-surrender issue to you. I'm saying that what the non-surrender treaty says is this: that because we have set up the International Criminal Court, under the International Criminal Court, if an American soldier or a Brazilian soldier or a British soldier commits crimes against humanity in Niger, and then he is found in Ghana, under the International Criminal Court Tribunal arrangement, they can issue an arrest warrant, like they issue arrest warrant for Charles Taylor. Let me finish, please. The non-surrender treaty is saying that Americans are saying that no, if our soldier commits that offense and he is found in Ghana, Ghana government, we don't want you to arrest that person and send him to the International Criminal Court. We want you to bring him to the US. They are not saying that if he commits the offense in Ghana, the Ghanaian courts can say, hey, you have shot a Ghanaian, you have committed murder, you have committed a manslaughter, you have assaulted and raped a girl, so we will not try you here because we have a non-surrender. No! That's not what the non-surrender is. The non-surrender agreement, as I said, is an exception to Article 98 of the International the Rome Statute.
It says American soldiers, countries that have signed to that treaty,
and I'm saying that if listen, I'm saying that
arrest or try American soldiers within that country. That's what it says.
No. I mean, tomorrow we can all go and look for the original agreement and look at it.
Yes.
But if that were the case, then you don't even need this agreement.
No, what I'm saying
if that were the case, you don't need this agreement.
All too soon.
You don't need it.
That's what time would allow us. Can you believe it? 1 hour just flew by. 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. Tanti's Fashions, they make my shirts for the show. It has been exciting, has been interesting. Adam Bonaa, security analyst, and Mahama Ayariga was the chairman for the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament, an honorable member of Parliament for Boko Central. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.